The war began without warning. It wasn't humanity that fired the first shot. The skies over the colony world of Elira 9 darkened when the Predator ships came. Massive black metal giants moving like a storm that ate light itself. People ran, alarms screamed, and from the hills, smoke rose like the world itself was afraid. Among the chaos, a small shelter stood at the edge of the valley. Inside it, a child named Mira held on to something small, round, and covered in black and white fur, her honey badger, Rex. He was not big, not strange, just an Earth creature in a strange galaxy. But he was hers, and he didn't fear the thunder outside. The soldiers who found her told her to stay inside. They said the predators hunted children first. Easier prey, they joked bitterly. Mira didn't understand why anyone would want to hurt her. She was only 10. But when the Predator ship landed nearby, the ground itself trembled like a beating heart. From the ship came tall beings, wrapped in bone-like armor, their faces hidden behind burning red visors. They spoke in a deep, harsh tone. "Bring the human young. The weak must kneel." Their words echoed through the ruined valley. Mira stepped back, holding Rex close. The honey badger didn't move, didn't blink. His black eyes locked on the sound, the same way he once stared at a wild viper back on Earth. There was something ancient in that stare, something that didn't belong to a pet. The soldiers tried to fight, but the Predator ship released drones that fired blue plasma across the camp. Walls shattered, humans screamed. And through it all, Mira whispered, "It's okay, Rex, it's okay." Her small hand trembled on his fur. Then something changed. The air grew still. Rex's body stiffened, his muscles tightening like steel under his thick fur. His eyes turned sharp, alive with a strange light. Not from fear, but from rage. The child's heartbeat slowed, but the honey badger's did not. He stepped forward, claws pressing into the metal floor. Outside, one of the Predator soldiers laughed, spotting the small creature emerging from the dust. "An Earth rat?" he growled, lowering his weapon. "Crush it," the weapon fired. The beam hit the ground, exploding dirt and smoke everywhere. When the dust cleared, the soldier didn't see the creature. He only heard a sound, low, deep, almost like a growl that came from everywhere at once. Then his armor cracked. Rex had leapt onto him, claws slicing through the gaps in his plating. One moment, the alien was standing. The next, he was on the ground, screaming as the honey badger tore through armor designed to survive vacuum. The other soldiers stepped back, confused, afraid. This wasn't supposed to happen. Mira stared in shock. The small creature she fed and played with was now something else. Something that didn't know fear, didn't stop, didn't even slow down when hit by plasma rounds. He moved like lightning, every strike precise. Every roar echoed with something primal, something older than any world in the galaxy. The Predator ship reacted. Its cannons began to charge, blue light built beneath its wings humming with deadly power. The humans in the shelter screamed for Mira to run, but she didn't move. She stood beside Rex, eyes wide as the ship aimed its weapon at her. Rex turned his head toward the ship. The growl that came from him wasn't natural anymore. It was deeper, as if the ground itself spoke through him. When the ship fired, the beam met a wave of sound, a roar that shattered the rocks around them. The energy pulse tore through the air, but instead of striking, it twisted, collapsing inward. The ship's front melted, the air filled with fire and broken light. In seconds, the Predator ship began to fall, its own engines exploding in silence. When it crashed, everything stopped. The soldiers fled, their roars turning into screams. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Mira walked forward slowly, her small hand reaching to touch Rex's head. His breathing was calm now. His eyes soft again. The fury had left him, leaving only quiet strength. Above them, the sky cleared for the first time since the invasion began. The Predators had come to teach humans fear. But instead they learned silence. Mira whispered, "Good boy, Rex." And the galaxy, watching through 100 hidden sensors, recorded the moment when a child and her honey badger reminded everyone what Earth truly meant. Smoke drifted over the ruined valley. The once shining Predator ship now lay half buried in the rocks, its black hull cracked open like a broken shell. The silence that followed felt wrong. Even the wind had stopped, afraid to disturb what had just happened. Mira stood near the wreckage, her small boots covered in dust. Rex sat beside her, calm again, his fur streaked with soot. Around them, the human soldiers slowly emerged from their shelters. Their eyes were wide, their faces pale. None of them spoke for a long time. They had seen plasma fire melt steel, but they had never seen an animal stop a warship. One soldier finally whispered, "That thing, that creature, is it really from Earth?" Mira looked up at him, then back at Rex. "He's my friend," she said softly. The man didn't know how to answer. He looked at the destroyed ship again. It still glowed faintly from inside. Pieces of alien technology twitched, humming like it didn't want to die. The air smelled of burnt metal and ozone. A sharp noise broke the quiet, an emergency beacon pulsing red among the wreck. The Predators were still alive. Deep in the ship, one of them crawled from the fire, armor half melted, breathing heavily. His eyes blazed with hatred. "You will regret this, human spawn," he hissed into his communicator. "Signal the fleet." Far above the planet, 3 more Predator ships received the call. Their weapons powered up. The battle wasn't over. It was just changing shape. Mira didn't understand what the signal meant, but Rex did. His nose twitched. He growled low, staring at the sky as though he could already see what was coming. Mira reached out and touched his head again. "We have to go, don't we?" she whispered. He didn't move, only kept watching the clouds. The soldiers gathered quickly. Commander Ron, a tall woman with a scar across her jaw, kneeled beside Mira. "Kid, we're getting you out. Whatever that animal is, it just made us a target." Mira's voice was steady. "He saved us." "I know," Rane said. "That's why they'll come back for you." They moved fast through the valley, keeping low between the rocks. The communication lines were down, and the nearest human outpost was 200 kilometers away. Without air support, they were alone. Every sound, the buzz of a drone, the echo of boots, made hearts race. As they walked, the ground trembled again. The humans froze. A shadow crossed the sun. High above, new Predator ships descended, larger than the first, their sides glowing with dark energy. They didn't come quietly. They wanted the humans to see. Fear was their weapon. One of the soldiers cursed under his breath. "They're scanning us." Rane lifted her weapon but knew it was useless. Plasma rifles couldn't touch ships like that. Then Rex stood up. The small creature stepped forward onto a ridge, fur rising, eyes bright. He let out a sound, a deep rumbling growl that rolled across the rocks like thunder. The Predator ships paused, hovering. For a second, it felt like even they were listening. Mira stared, her hand on her chest. "He's calling them," she said quietly. "He's not afraid." The wind picked up again, hot and strange. Tiny sparks of light danced around Rex's claws like static. The humans backed away. No one knew if what they were seeing was real. In orbit, Predator commanders watched the ground through screens. They zoomed in on the human child and her beast. "That creature is a weapon," one hissed. "It carries an unknown energy signature. Capture it alive," orders were given. Dropships began to fall through the clouds. On the ground, the first explosion hit near the ridge. Dust and fire filled the air. The humans ran for cover, pulling Mira with them. But Rex didn't move. He stood his ground, fur glowing faintly under the smoke. When the next dropship came down, he looked up, and his eyes turned a sharp electric blue. A second later, the dropship's engines failed. It spun out of control and crashed into the valley wall. The soldiers looked at each other in disbelief. Rain whispered, "That wasn't luck." Mira felt it too. She didn't know how or why, but somehow her honey badger wasn't just fighting. He was changing. Each time he faced danger, he became something stronger, something the galaxy had never seen before. Rain's voice came through the comm, shaking but firm. "All units fall back to the bunker. Protect the child. Protect the asset." The humans ran, carrying their wounded, smoke following behind them. Above, the Predator ships prepared another strike. Lightning filled the clouds as energy built in their cannons. Mira glanced back. Rex was still there, standing between her and the fire, a small figure against a sky full of war. His fur rippled in the light. He turned his head just enough to look at her, then charged toward the coming storm. The valley shook again. The light swallowed everything. The light faded slowly. Smoke and dust covered everything. The ground where Rex had stood was scorched black, and small fires burned among the shattered rocks. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a shadow appeared through the haze, low, powerful, walking slowly back toward the humans. It was Rex. His fur was singed, but his eyes still glowed faintly blue. Each step he took left a faint mark of energy on the ground. Mira ran forward, ignoring the calls to stop her. She threw her arms around him and held him tight. The creature that had just torn a ship from the sky now stood calmly beside her, breathing softly, as if nothing had happened. Commander Rane watched with disbelief. That thing just disabled an entire Predator assault team. Without weapons. Another soldier muttered, "He's not just an animal anymore." Rane nodded slowly. "He's something else, and they'll want him more than ever now." High above, the Predator fleet adjusted course. The alien commander, a tall being with gray armor etched in blood symbols, slammed his claws against the control panel. "That beast carries forbidden power. No human should possess it. Burn the entire sector if needed." 3 more dreadships turned their weapons toward Elira 9. On the ground, humans scrambled to evacuate. The air was filled with the roar of engines and the distant rumble of orbital cannons charging. Mira stood at the edge of a bunker entrance, looking up at the sky. Her small hand rested on Rex's head. "They're coming again, aren't they?" she said quietly. Rane crouched beside her. "Yes, but we'll protect you." Mira shook her head. "No, he will." Rex turned toward the horizon. His ears twitched, picking up the distant hum of approaching ships. The humans moved into the bunker, sealing the doors behind them. Inside, lights flickered as the generator struggled. The walls shook with every explosion outside. In the command room, scientists worked quickly around flickering monitors. One of them pointed to the screen showing Rex's bio readings. "Look at this energy signature. It's not possible. His neural patterns are syncing with the human child's heartbeat." Rane frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning he's reacting to her emotions. The more she's afraid, the stronger he gets." The commander stepped closer to the monitor. "So, if they take her, they'll control him," the scientist finished. Outside, the Predator ships broke through the clouds again. This time, they didn't come for destruction. They came to capture. Massive nets of plasma dropped from the sky, glowing red and expanding like liquid fire. The nets hit the ground, burning through rock and metal, trapping anything that moved. One of the nets landed near the bunker, cutting off the exit. Rain shouted orders through the comms. "Hold your positions! Do not engage unless you have a shot!" Mira looked up as the roof above her cracked from the force. Dust fell on her hair. She heard the scream of the alien engines. "Rex!" she whispered. Before anyone could stop her, she ran toward the exit. The soldiers shouted after her, but the door burst open from the pressure outside. A wave of heat and wind threw everyone back. When the dust cleared, Mira was standing in the open, her small figure glowing faintly in the red stormlight. Rex stood beside her, his claws digging into the dirt. The plasma nets fell around them, closing in. Mira didn't run. She just whispered, "Don't let them take anyone, Rex." Something deep inside him awoke again. His fur rippled with energy, brighter this time. The air cracked like thunder. The plasma nets touched the ground and vanished, disintegrated into sparks. The aliens in the ships screamed through their comms as systems failed one by one. From orbit, the Predator commander stared at his sensors in shock. "The creature's energy is spreading, infecting our systems." "Should we retreat, sir?" one of his lieutenants asked. "Retreat? From a mammal?" he spat. "No. Burn them all." He gave the order. On the surface, beams of blue light fell from the sky. The ground exploded again and again. The bunker collapsed. Whole sections of the valley were turned to glass. Through it all, Mira stood unmoving, holding her hand against Rex's side. She could feel his heartbeat matching hers. Strong, steady, endless. Rex looked up. His body began to glow, pure white this time. The energy didn't burn. It shimmered, calm, focused, alive. He opened his mouth, and from it came a low growl that shook the mountain range. The incoming beams curved in midair. They twisted, bent, and vanished like smoke. The Predator ships tried to fire again, but their weapons refused to obey. Lights flickered. Gravity failed. One by one, the ships began to fall. From orbit, the commander screamed as his own ship tilted sideways. "This is impossible! That beast—" His words cut off when the power died. The last thing he saw before the ship tore apart was a small human child standing under the storm, her hand resting on a glowing creature from a forgotten world. Then there was silence. Rex lowered his head and exhaled slowly. The light around him dimmed. Mira looked up at him with wide eyes. "You stopped them," she said softly. He blinked once, calm again, and nudged her hand gently, as if saying, "Safe now." But above the ruined skies in the dark beyond orbit, more ships waited, silent, watching. The galaxy had seen what happened on Elira 9, and it was afraid. News spread faster than light. Across outposts and trade routes, whispers carried through static-filled channels. A human child, an Earth creature, destroyed an entire Predator fleet. No one believed it at first, but the recording said otherwise. Every ship's black box showed the same final image, a glowing white storm, a roaring animal, and then nothing. On Earth's Central Command, generals stared at the data in stunned silence. Admiral Corrin leaned forward, rubbing his temples. "One child and a honey badger just rewrote our understanding of warfare." A scientist from the Xenobiology division shook her head. "No, Admiral. They rewrote biology. Meanwhile, far from Earth, Mira sat inside a damaged transport ship wrapped in a thermal blanket. Outside the viewport, Elira 9 burned quietly under its orange sun. Rex lay near her feet, breathing slowly, eyes closed. He looked peaceful again, almost ordinary, like he hadn't just brought down 3 warships. Commander Rene stood beside her. "We'll reach the carrier in 10 minutes. The whole fleet's on alert. They think the Predators might retaliate." Mira didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on Rex. "They're not done," she said softly. "I can feel it." Rane frowned. "What do you mean?" "He hears them. Even when they're far away." The commander looked at the creature and almost believed her. Rex's ears twitched, even in sleep, as if listening to something beyond sound. In deep space, the Predator High Council gathered. Towering figures stood around a crimson table of light. Their leader, Varak, slammed his claws into the surface. "We were humiliated by a child, by a beast from a backwater world," another spoke quietly. "That beast carries the resonance of the old code, the one forbidden since the first wars." Varak's eyes burned red. "Then we will purge Earth, erase their species before it spreads." They didn't know someone was listening. Human intelligence drones had intercepted every word. The message reached Admiral Corrin's desk within minutes. He stared at the screen, then turned to his officers. "They want a war? Fine, but they'll learn what happens when humanity stops holding back." The next day, the fleet of Earth spread across space like a storm of steel. Massive carriers, dreadnoughts, and long-range artillery platforms took positions between Mars and Jupiter. Humanity had fought among itself for centuries, but never united like this. Back on the ship, Mira woke to the hum of engines. Rain entered, handing her a small device. "Command wants to talk to you." "Me?" Mira blinked. "Why?" "They think your friend is the key to our survival." A hologram flickered to life, the Admiral himself. He looked tired, but respectful. "Mira, I need to ask something difficult. That creature, Rex, he's not just protecting you, is he? He's protecting us all." Mira hesitated, then nodded slowly. "He doesn't like when people hurt others. He remembers it." The Admiral exhaled. "Then we'll remember him too." Suddenly, alarms screamed across the ship. "Multiple Predator fleets detected, jumping into Sol system." Rain pulled up the tactical screen. "There's hundreds of them." Mira stood and looked out the window. The stars themselves seemed to move, dark shapes emerging from hyperspace. She turned toward Rex. "It's happening again." His eyes opened. Blue light filled the room. On the other side of space, Predator ships aligned into attack formation. Their leader's voice echoed across frequencies. Erase the humans. Leave no trace. The first barrage began, plasma fire raining down on the human defense line. But something strange happened. Every weapon that locked onto Earth flickered, then lost target lock. The systems glitched. Static filled the Predator ships. In the center of the storm, Mira stood beside the viewport, her hand resting on Rex's fur. The glow around him pulsed like a heartbeat. The Admiral's voice came through the comm. "What's happening to their fleet?" The tech officers shouted over the noise. "They're losing control of their navigation. Something's rewriting their systems." Rex's eyes turned white. He wasn't roaring now. He was listening to something vast and quiet. Every Predator ship, every engine, every weapon went silent. The void of space filled with stillness so deep it felt alive. Mira whispered, "He's not fighting them anymore. He's warning them." And in that silence, a message appeared across every screen, written in ancient alien symbols. The translation blinked slowly into human language. "Do not threaten Earth again." Then, one by one, the Predator ships vanished into darkness, jumping away, leaving only the quiet hum of human engines behind. The war had stopped before it began, but the question now haunted everyone. What exactly was Rex becoming, and who or what had just spoken through him? The silence after the battle was almost heavier than the fight itself. Across every human ship, crews stared at their consoles, afraid to even breathe. The Predator armadas, hundreds of them, had simply vanished. No explosions, no wreckage, just gone. In the command deck of the carrier Vigilant Dawn, Admiral Corrin sat motionless, watching the empty void where death had stood a moment ago. "They retreated?" he asked quietly. "No, sir," replied the sensor officer. "They were removed." The word hung in the air like a curse. Deep inside the ship, in the medical bay, Mira sat beside Rex's bed. He was still, eyes half closed, breathing slow. The blue glow that had once surrounded him was gone, leaving only his natural black and white fur. He looked like a normal honey badger again, as if the galaxy-breaking power had burned itself out. Mira reached out and touched his paw. "You can rest now," she whispered. "You did enough." The lights above flickered once. Commander Rane entered the room, quiet, helmet tucked under her arm. "How's he doing?" "He's tired," Mira said. "But he's dreaming. I can feel it." Rane looked uneasy. "Dreaming of what?" Before the girl could answer, every monitor in the med bay lit up. Strange symbols rolled across the screens, patterns that no Earth computer could generate. The ship's AI tried to translate them, but the lines rearranged faster than the code could keep up. Finally, the screen settled into one simple phrase. "It watches." The bridge called down instantly. "We've got activity. Unknown signal emerging from subspace. Origin unknown." Corrin's voice came over the comm, sharp. "Lock on the source." "Trying, sir, but the signal's inside our range sensors. It's coming from the same frequency that disabled the Predator fleet." Rane turned toward Mira. "It's him, isn't it?" Mira didn't answer. She looked down at Rex, whose breathing had grown deeper. The fur around his shoulders was glowing faintly again. But this time it wasn't blue. It was white, pure and steady, like moonlight trapped under his skin. Across the galaxy, other species were waking up to the same mystery. The Council of Varens convened in panic. The Trillian archives reported that their ancient texts mentioned a creature once called the Silent Fang, a guardian from pre-civilization ages who appeared when empires began to hunt children and the weak. Even the Predator's homeworld went dark. No transmissions, no movement. Entire sectors reported ghost signals, whispers in every language, repeating one phrase, "Do not harm the small." Humanity had always feared being the weakest species. Now the galaxy feared the strength hidden in their smallest defenders. On Vigilant Dawn, Corrin gathered his officers. "This thing saved us. But if it can silence fleets, it can end worlds. We have to understand it." The scientist who'd been studying Rex's readings shook her head. "You don't study something like that, Admiral. You ask permission to exist near it." Rane glanced toward the medbay window where the child and her badger sat in quiet light. Whatever he is, he's still protecting her. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why he chose her. Hours later, when the ship was quiet again, Mira woke to a soft sound. Rex's low growl, not of anger, but warning. She turned toward the glass wall. Beyond it floated space itself, infinite and dark, and then, out of that darkness, something enormous passed, a shadow without shape, moving slower than light, older than time. The ship's sensors didn't see it. The human eye barely could, but Rex raised his head, eyes bright, and for the first time since the war began, Mira saw fear in him. She whispered, "Rex, what is that?" He didn't answer. He simply moved closer to her, pressing his head against her shoulder. The lights dimmed again, and for a heartbeat, every human on the ship felt something, like being watched by the universe itself. Then, silence. The shadow moved like a planet without mass, drifting across the stars but bending the light around it. The ship's scanners failed the moment it appeared. No readings, no numbers, no logic, just presence. Admiral Corrin stood on the command bridge, his voice low. "Is that another Predator weapon?" "No, sir," replied the science officer. "This isn't technology. It's something alive." Rain's voice came through the comm from the med bay. "Admiral Rex is reacting again. The energy readings are off the scale." Corrin didn't hesitate. Get that child to safety. But it was too late. Mira had already stepped to the viewport, her hand against the glass. Rex stood beside her, eyes glowing faint white, his fur rippling with energy. The light wasn't violent this time, it was calm, like an ocean reflecting the stars. The shadow stopped moving. And for the first time, it spoke, not with sound, but inside every living mind across 1,000 worlds. The words were simple, ancient, and terrifying. "I remember Earth," Mira gasped, feeling the voice inside her bones. The ship trembled. Screens filled with strange symbols again, the same patterns from before. But now they formed images, ancient beasts, massive and wild, walking through fire and ice. Then she saw something that made her heart stop, a creature like Rex, only larger, older, covered in cosmic scars, standing before a line of alien kings. The image shifted to show those kings kneeling. Then the words returned. They forgot fear. "You reminded them," Rex growled softly, his eyes locked on the shadow beyond the glass. It felt like recognition, a meeting between kin separated by eons. The Admiral whispered, "What is that thing?" The scientist answered quietly, almost reverently, "Not a thing. A guardian. A relic from before stars had names." The ship lights dimmed completely. Only Rex's glow remained. Mira stepped closer to him, voice shaking. "Why are they here?" Rex turned his head toward her, eyes soft and human-like for a moment. She understood without words. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to see if humanity still deserved to exist. The shadow's voice filled the ship again. "Child of Earth, keeper of courage. The bond you share has awakened the old law. The small shall never be prey." And then, just as it appeared, the shadow began to fade. Stars returned to their places. Silence filled the ship again, but this time it was peaceful. The humans on board slowly lowered their weapons. For the first time in days, the universe felt still. Ronnie exhaled. "It's leaving," Corrin nodded. "No, it's watching." On the viewing screen, the stars shimmered brighter than before. Somewhere out there, the Predator's fleets were gone, erased or hiding, no one knew. But none dared to move against Earth again, not after what they'd seen. In the med bay, Mira knelt beside Rex. He was breathing steadily now, the light fading from his fur. She smiled softly. "You did it, Rex. It's over." He gave a low huff, pressing his head into her hand. Commander Rane entered the room, her tone quiet. "You two just saved the species, kid." Mira looked up, her voice calm. "No, we just reminded them what it means to protect." The ship drifted silently through the stars. Its course now clear, back toward Earth. Humanity was no longer seen as prey or prey makers, but as something else entirely. Something unpredictable, untamed, and protected by a creature no one truly understood. As the planet's blue glow filled the window, Mira whispered, "We're home." Rex's tail twitched once. His eyes closed. For the first time in a long, terrible journey, he slept, not as a weapon, but as a guardian. And far beyond the stars, in the dark between galaxies, something vast smiled and whispered to the void, "Let no one harm the children of Earth again."